Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I am on for my second and last video for my collaboration with PandaHall this time around. The lovely people at PandaHall sent me some goodies to play with. So I've already done an unboxing and my first tutorial video where I did some jelly printing and collaging and organising. So I will link those videos down below in case you want to go back and have a look. But I'll recap here with some photos of what I received from PandaHall. Links to the products that I'm showing you are down below that I have been using, as well as the link to PandaHall if you want to go and check out what they've got. There's also my coupon code, which is YXYTNAT. If you put that in at checkout, you can get 10% off of any orders with PandaHall, and that's valid until August in 2026, so you've got ages to use that. In the mushroom scrapbook set, there were these two journals with those beautiful cardboard covers. I'm keeping one of the cardboard covers to make one journal today. And then I am removing some pages out of the actual journal here to use it for a glue book that you would have seen in my last video. So there's a lot of signatures in here, and I'm finding the middle of the signature where you can see the stitches, and I'm just removing the pages. I'm ripping the pages and the opposing pages. I'm taking about 2/3 of the pages out of the book. And it's easier to do it by just ripping a page either side of the sewing. I'll keep those pages to make my journal. So here I have the cardboard cover, and I'm just cutting the spine out of that. I will be making a ring-bound journal and using the rings that PandaHall sent me for that. So I'll use those bits for the cover for that. Now I've got the second journal here, and I'm just removing the book block from it, so we'll be left with the cover. So I'm doing it quite gently. I'm removing the outer pages that are sort of stuck in, and once I've done that, I can just simply take the block of pages out. I will be keeping them and reusing them in this journal as well. So again, I'm removing the spine, I'm just cutting it down, and I'm keeping the front and back board pieces for my cover. Now I've cut a little bit of chipboard for a spine. It's about 2 centimetres wide. Here again, I'm removing the pages. What I'm doing this time is finding the middle of the signature where the stitches are, and cutting the stitches with my seam ripper, and then you can just wiggle the block of pages out. There are a few pages at the start and end of each signature that are sort of stuck in or stuck together. You have to sort of tear them out. These are the acrylic spaces that I chose. And I've been keen to get some of these because they really help when you want to put together your own journal covers and if you want to cover them as well. You could use them for other things though, for layering papers to get the right size around all your different layers, which I will use them a lot in the future for. So I'm using the T rule there, just putting it along the top to line up my front and back cover. And then I can stick down my spine onto the fabric that I want to cover it with. It's got a few wrinkles in it. I'm not very good at ironing, so we'll deal with that. So I'm just lining the T rule up again on the top of the spine piece that I put down. And I'm getting both my covers there lined up. Now, the smallest piece of the acrylic set is just a little wide for the gaps I want in such a little book. So what I've done is turned it up onto its side, and it's a perfect width. So I'm putting that down in between my spine and my front and back covers, and that'll give me a great little gap there. You need a little bit of a gap to be able to open and close your cover, especially if you're covering it in fabric and that's going to go down between that gap. Use the T rule to put up the top to make sure that I've got everything lined up the top there. And then I use that other one to put the gaps in between the cover and the spine. Very helpful, actually. I just stick my front and back cover down to the fabric as well. Now I'm trying to press all of my wrinkles out. So I've got this corner one there, so you can see I'm putting the inner triangle top to the edge of my corner, and then I'm ruling a line along the top straight bit there. And that tells me how much I need to cut off to still be able to cover my corners nicely. Then I'm going around with the T-rule and just ruling a line. That way we know the lines are the same space the whole way around the fabric. Then I can just cut it all out. So usually I just eyeball and just cut it, and it's always crooked and really messy. I'm finding it really handy having those rulers of different widths, especially when I start making the bigger journal covers. So I just fold over and stick down the corners first of my fabric onto my cover. I forgot to cut that side off. And then I'll go ahead and stick down the sides of my covers. So I just add the glue to the cover rather than the fabric so it doesn't bleed through. And then I fold my book over on top of it. I find that gives me a really neat, sort of tight fold there. I do both the ends and then I do the top and the bottom edges. Don't mind my big buffhead. It's very hard to film and not get your head in the camera when you need to see things close up. So I'm just using my bone folder to burnish down the fabric so it sticks nicely. I always push the fabric down in the little gaps there that we created as well. I think it looks nice. That way you can make sure the cover's going to fold up nicely as well with the fabric tucked in. Hence why you need that bit of a gap. Now for my ring bound journal, I'm using my cinch to punch the holes. You can switch the different hole punches on and off so you can get them where you want and as many as you want. So I'm doing the 2 holes. So here I've brought in the pages that I ripped out of the first journal that we used as a glue book. And I'm just putting them together. Then I can push them into my cinch machine, push the handle down, and it'll punch my 2 holes. Now, if you don't have a cinch machine, you can just use the holes from your template and use that to measure where you want your holes on the pages underneath and use a typical hole punch to do it. I have a book page there with some text on it. I like the colour of it, so I've decided to use that just to cover the inside of my cover pieces. So I do switch between the cinch bound journal and my sewn in journal a bit here, so hopefully you'll be able to keep up with what I'm doing. I stick pieces down and they don't fit all the way across, but it doesn't matter because I'll be folding those little flaps down to create pockets. And I just trim off any overhang. So I have the envelopes that came from the kits. So I've got 2 of each because I had the 2 kits. If I put them together, I can also put them in my cinch machine and cut holes and use them in my cinch journal as well. I'll also use the other 2 in my sewn journal, and you'll see how I've used them at the end when I do a flip through. So I'm just putting my cover in, making sure it's the back pieces that I'm putting up to put the holes in. So because I ripped these pages out, they're a little rough on the edges. I actually don't mind a bit of the roughness, so I'm leaving a lot of it, but some of them stick out a little bit long for my covers, so I'm just trimming them up. Finding a few other bits from the scrapbook kits that I want to use as pages as well. Just cutting them down to the size I want them. A few of these long pieces I will fold the bottom up and make little pockets out of, but the other ones I'll cut to the same size as the pages. Now that's one of the bigger papers that you get. So I just have to cut a little bit off of those, and then they're a great size for pages as well. And like I said before, for the Cinch journal, we just use singular pages. For my sign-in journal, I'll be using doubled pages, so I'll fold those pages in half. So again, if I just put a few together and put them in my Cinch machine, I can punch the hole in ready. Got that little one. You get a lot of those in the pack. They're beautiful. I'm using that as a page as well. So I'm showing you here how I'm measuring how long the page would be, so I know where to fold up the base to make a little pocket. I use my bone folder and a ruler just to fold it up nice and neat. And again, I can put them together and punch the holes. So there are these vellum sheets which are gorgeous. Love the way they look. So I'm cutting a few of those down as pages. If you put them next to a white page, you really see the detail in them. So they look great as pages in the journal. Now I've realised it's probably best to punch the holes by putting it onto some card and then punching the holes, because I did have a bit of trouble cutting the vellum neatly with my cutter, so I probably should have done that with some card underneath or paper as well. So you can see here I've got an assortment of different pages from the kit, and also ones that I have found around in my stash. And I've got the 2 rings that PandaHall sent me. I've got a stack of those to use for different things now. And I'm putting on my back cover, and then some of the pages that we took out of the journal. I've got map pages, I've got the kit pages that we cut down. Some of the papers that I've found at home. A lot of these are out of little notebooks that I get from the secondhand store. I just alternate them in a way that I find aesthetically pleasing. Can see here that some of the pages had binding holes in them, but they didn't fit for the binding rings that I had, so I punched some in the other side, and I think it just makes some nice interest in the pages. I want to prep my fabric cover now, and I've already measured out and punched holes in the chipboard that we stuck down. Now that we've got the fabric over the top, I'm punching through those holes again so we can see them in the back of the cover there, in the back of the spine. I want to decorate the inside of my covers, and firstly I want to put some hessian down. So I'm just cutting it to size so it sticks over the edges a bit. I don't want it overhanging the spine obviously, but I do want it overhanging the other 3 sides. Just cutting it straight. It's very messy, this stuff. You end up with fur everywhere. Then I think it would be best for me to stick that onto some paper to make it easier to adhere to the cover as well. Just using some of the journal pages to do that, cutting them down to size so they fit nicely on the inside covers. I also want to sew around the hessian, so I decided it'd be easier to sew it onto the paper and then stick the paper into the journal cover. I purposely fray the edges here by pulling some of the threads out, but we don't want that to keep happening, so I will sew around it, and that should help. The sticking onto the paper would stop that as well. So I've sewn around both of the hessian pieces. I'm creating some labels for both journals. So they're the label stickers, sticking them onto some scrap paper. I did have trouble finding the edges and peeling them up, so it is handy to have a knife or a pokey tool to help you lift the edge up. I'll cut those out. It'd be hard to stick them onto the hessian as they were, so I decided I would back them with paper. Now this is some of the packaging paper that came with my PandaHall order. And I'm going to back that little ephemera piece from the kit with that packing paper. Just adds a bit of texture and contrast. I have some threads there from my sewing. I'm going to stick them down under my ephemera piece. So I'll just get them into place first. Great way to use up your scrap thread. And I can stick that onto my hessian. And then I'll stick the label down too. Be a nice little label to be able to write on. Although it is like a plasticky label, so you'd have to use a permanent marker or something to write on that. So that's for our inside cover. And then for our back inside cover, I'm going to create a little pocket with that piece there. It's like a little postcard. And then we've got tags, and I thought I'll fit a little tag in the pocket. Use some of my packing paper again, just to layer the postcard onto. Now I'll just stick down the bottom and the two sides so it's open at the top. And we can fit our little tag in. So with some of the pages for my cinch bound journal, I will be covering some cereal box card, good way to recycle. And the kit pages cover up the advertising on the box quite nicely, and the other side's a nice colour to be able to write on. Nice and plain. Now for the two pages that we just covered, I'm going to add hessian to them as well. And I'll overhang it on all edges. I'm pretty sure I do for the cinch journal, because you can, because it's open at the back. So we've got the two hessian pieces that we're putting in our sewn together journal, and then we'll have two hessian pieces that we put in our cinch journal as well. Now to punch the holes in those, I'm doing what I said you could do before, putting the cover over the top because I've already punched the holes in that, and using the holes as a guide to make a pencil mark where we want to punch the holes in these pages, because I wouldn't get them where I want them in the cinch, because the hessian sticking out would impede my ability to push it right to the back of the machine. I have some linen fabric there that I'm going to use to cover my spine piece on the inside with. And then we'll be sewing our signatures through all of that. Now, of course, we're covering up our measurements to where the holes are again here. So I stick it down to the spine piece, and then I will turn it over and poke through the holes we've already done at the back, and that'll show us the holes on this side. Always make sure to get glue in our little gap there, so I can press the fabric down in there. Hence, again, why we need that bit of a gap. Makes it nice and neat and tidy, and helps you open and close the covers. Then I also stick the edges down to the inside covers. So now I can stick in the front and back cover pieces that we made with the hessian. And like I said, there's no overhang that goes near the spine. And I just make sure that my covers are opening and closing nicely once I've done that. Here I go punching the holes back through again. So you can see the holes there on the inside spine, and we'll be able to see them on the back as well, which makes it easy for us to sew the signatures in. So I've got my 3 signatures here now, and you can see some of the pages stick out here and there. So they need cutting down. And the way I do that is just measure them up against each other. So I start with the outside page, cut it down to the size I want, and then the pages underneath I can make a mark to where they need to be cut down to fit in nicely. So I have to cut the top off of that outside page. So I measured it up against the height of the pages that are the right height. Then put the next page in and see how it fits. We need to cut a little bit off of the edge of that. So I just continue doing that until they're all the right size, and I do that with each of the signatures. I have another page here. We know it's the right height for the cover. I've just folded it in half, and I'm putting it up against the holes that we've punched so I can make a mark where each one of the holes is. I do put a T on there for top as well, so I know which way it faces, just in case the holes aren't evenly aligned from the top and the bottom. I did put my marks on the wrong side there, so just rubbing them out. So make sure all the pages in one of my signatures are together, and I put my little template in there. I like to get a ruler and push all the pages down together in the middle. Get some big clips, clip one side of pages together, and I clip the other side together. Make sure the template's clipped in there as well. And then I can use my pokey tool on some cardboard there just to punch through all of the pages. Remember to take your template out. Then I'm going to sew this one in as my first signature at the top of my book. So 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I'm just using some crochet thread there. And then before I start sewing, I remember I wanted to put a hole in for a dangle at the top of my spine there. So I just used my hole punch to punch that hole. And then I forget to put my eyelet in anyway, but I figured that out later. So I decide to go in from the center of the book there, from the inside. So we'll have the end threads hanging down inside our journal. So in through both the middle holes. Then up the top through the top hole, both the spine and the journal. Then we run the thread right down to the bottom hole, then through the bottom hole of the cover. And then back through the middle hole there. Then I'll make sure that both ends of the thread are on opposite sides underneath the middle thread running down. And pull to tighten my threads. Make sure there are no knots or bits of string hanging around anywhere that shouldn't be. And then I can tie a double knot over that middle thread. And that will hold my signature in place. So I repeat that process with my other 2 signatures to fit them all in. I'm just going through and cutting all the thread ends down to be about the same length. Now I want to get on with my front cover piece, and I have another piece of fabric there which I'm going to stick onto some paper. Just find it easier to stick it onto the paper first and then onto the other fabric. Get less bleed through then. I can control the glue a bit better that way. Now I have those little mushrooms that I cut out of a fabric scrap that I had here that I found at the secondhand shop. Got one of the embellishments from the kit, and they're like little frames with perforated pieces in them. So I get the perforated bit out. I accidentally ripped the frame a little bit, but it's not going to matter. Have one of the tags as well, and I'm just figuring out where I want to place everything. I wanted to show you the process of how I was making both of the journals in case you want to make one like them. But I do go off and finish them off camera afterwards, just so it's not too long a video, and I will do a flip through afterwards so you can see how I've added things and what I've used. I'll stick my fabric down first. They're quite nice coordinating fabrics, those. Then I figure out my placement again so I know what I want to stick down first. I want to stick down that frame first because it's on the bottom. So I'm just marking where the corners should go, because I'm very good at putting something down, liking the way it looks, and then going to stick it down and realizing I've put it in different places and it doesn't look so good anymore. Now I want to tuck my little mushroom label in the top, so I just lifted up the top of the frame a little bit. So again, putting some marks down where I want to stick my little tag. I want to get the placement right with my little piece here, so I'm putting some glue onto the mushroom and then onto that little embellishment piece to stick the mushroom and that together. And then I'll apply glue to the paper piece to stick down first. I don't want to add the glue direct to the fabric of the mushrooms in case it bleeds through. But now I've got it positioned where I want it, I can just carefully put the glue down where I think the mushrooms will land, and bit by bit stick it down. So I decided to back the little mushroom piece onto, it's a bit more of the packaging from the scrapbook kit. It's a nice dark brown colour, so I decided to use that to layer it on. And then I'll put that just under my frame there. That's my cover decorated. So here are my two journals. I would say finished, but they're not really finished. I only lightly embellished them because I have a stack of leftover ephemera and that I can use to have fun playing around in these. So they've got a lot of pages in them, so I can write in them and add pictures and whatever I like. So I think we'll start by having a quick flick through the ring-bound journal. I used the binder rings that PandaHall sent me for those. Loved using them. There's so much room. You can make a really thick journal. So there's room to grow in this one. I decided not to add too many more pages yet, as if I want to stick things on the pages that add more ephemera, that's going to bulk it up. So I can do that. We've got the two binder rings. I've got the beautiful charms on my journals now. So I've just used a bulb pin to attach one of the red mushroom charms. So that came in a pack that had a few different colours, and they're gorgeous. I used, as you saw, the cardboard that was around there. It was like a dust cover for the notebook that came in the scrapbook kit. And they made really good covers for this. So I have a pocket there that I can slip some paper in, or a tag if I like. Put one of the stickers as a label there. So the scrapbook paper I used, you saw me make these bits with the hessian. So they're just at the start and back, so it adds that sort of hangover bit, which I like. Vellum, that makes great pages. Just got to straighten up my rings. So what I did was use the pages that I ripped out of the book that I used for my collages last time. Use those pages and punched holes in them. I did leave the edges ripped. I don't mind that look. I just cut them down so they'd fit in here neatly. Used some of the pages I have here at home as well. The small scrapbook paper pages, they fit really nicely. So heaps and heaps of writing space, or spaces to stick other bits and pieces. I did use some cereal box and added some scrapbook paper to that to make some nice sturdy pages. The envelopes, they were great to add as pages as well. And in this one I've stuck a few of the to-do lists that come in the kit. You get a stack of those, so I thought I'd put a few in there that I can use. Some more of my own papers. Stacks and stacks of the papers from the notebook, and I still have heaps left to put in other journals. So one of the papers there. And then these bits were cardboard on the packaging for the scrapbook paper kit. And I've just used them to make little pockets, and I've got some of the memo pad in that. So much fun making this, so much fun using some of the packaging as well in it. The papers are beautiful. So that's one of the ephemera pieces. Now that's open so you can fit paper up underneath that. I had a vintage map here. It was a brown one and I like that, so I used a piece as a fold out. So I'll try and go quick because this is a big one. Another one of the littler pieces, and I made my own little card with a picture of mushrooms on it to put in there. So I just want to show you the different papers that I've used as well as the ones from the notebook, just to add some interest. Now they had a lot of ephemera that had the push out bits to make frames, so I've used those, and these were the sort of long, I think there were 3 in a row mushroom pictures. So I stuck that under the frame and then I backed it with some tea-dyed paper, so you can journal on that. Makes a nice little slide or photo. Some more of the beautiful vellum. So the beauty of these huge rings is you can add stacks and stacks of pages. I also like doing ring bound journals because you can use your single pages that you have lying around. Helps you use up scrap bits and that as well. And you can lie them flat. I find them really good for collaging and that in. You can take the pages out and move them around where you want them. This was actually the spine from the cover that we used. So I've put that in as a belly band. Just added a piece of paper to write on and one of the beautiful stickers. Love their stickers. They work really nicely. So I also used the photo corners, which I love using in journals. And with this one, I've put in just a little card that I can journal on. So if I'm careful, I can take that out. It's just a book picture. And then you can put it back in. If you make your picture sort of thin enough, you should be able to fold it up to get it back in there all right. So this was a mushroom paper bag from the supermarket, which I cut down. And I used some of these thinner bits of paper and made little scrappy notepads. I put an embellishment in them and I put one of the to-do lists at the back there. Beautiful scrappy pad there. I just sewed all the papers in. So that fits into this paper bag. Open it up like that, it probably fits a bit better. So it's another one of the frames where I pressed out the centerpiece and I used some of the vellum. I think that mushroom is that mushroom. And made a little vellum window. So another one of the envelopes. And I used a book picture on this and the washi tape from the scrapbook kit. And a bit of my material there. Just made a little journal card that I can slip into the envelope. So heaps and heaps of writing space in this. Lots of fun. I've got stacks. I didn't use a lot of the stickers in that because I didn't want to just randomly go sticking stickers everywhere, and I want to have some to have fun with afterwards in these. So that's going to be a lot of fun to play around with. I just wanted to use a little bit of everything to show you how I would go about using it. Now this is a little tuck spot. It's another one of the frame pieces, and I had some little pictures in books. And I've added them, but you can tuck some paper down behind that. Then we've got the other page I made with you guys with the hessian. Another pocket in the back there. And then that's the back cover. So that's my ring bound mushroom journal. Absolutely love that. Heaps and heaps of fun to make they are. So I'll put that to the side and we'll have a look at this one, which is a 3-hole pamphlet stitch journal. So it's got 3 signatures, and I did a 3-hole pamphlet stitch for that one. Now you saw that I used the front and back cover from the notebook, and then I cut a spine out of chipboard. I then covered it in the fabric. Now on the cover we have a number of pieces out of the kit, and then I've got this beautiful pair of mushrooms that I had lying around from a scrap of fabric. So there's the back. It still has my line in it where I didn't iron my fabric. Might end up sticking something over the top of that, but otherwise it looks quite neat. So there's my dangle. I just used some old chain from a necklace and a jump ring to attach it to my little eyelet. And then another one of the awesome little mushroom charms that PandaHall sent me. Love them. So we'll open it up. You saw me do the covers, so I won't go into much more explanation. Again, I've got the scrapbook paper. So for this, I just folded the scrapbook paper and cut down any bits that were overhanging. Again, we've got some of the photo corners, so I can pull this little notepad piece out. They're beautiful. I have stacks of those I can use as well. I used bits from the notebook again, but these were where I left the pages joined together, so they were sewn in. Some more of that beautiful vintage map, vellum. So very similar pieces in it, just done in a different method. There's the centre page where I've tied the knot. Another one with the book picture and the frame. And that's a tuck spot. More vellum. So I'm not going to show you every page of that because it's the plainer pages. Now there's one of the envelopes. So I have stuck it in so you can flip it up. And then we've got my to-do lists in that one. So there's heaps I can add to this. But if I kept going, I would never get to show you this. And I'm already probably a little bit late with it, so I had to get a move on. So more of the stickers. They come up so nicely. Then again, we've got our little flip book in our paper bag. So it was just one mushroom bag that I'd cut in half. So there's the front and the back. The ephemera. And the to-do list, just random scrap papers. So just slip that over like that. A little banner embellishment and a journal card with a book picture. It's cute paper, that one. Now, I used some of my tissue paper that I got and used in my last video where I stamped on it. And I've applied matte medium to that, and that came up beautifully on the white paper. You can hardly see the tissue paper. Love it. I was going to use some more of my gel prints and that, but again, it would just, I have to let each page dry in between it and I wouldn't get this done. So, yeah. But I think when I go to play with them, I'll use it. And if I do, I'll do it on camera so you can see. Other side of the paper bag, that holds a bookmark that I put together. So it's using one of the longer sheets that has these bits that you can stick down. And they're perforated so you can rip them apart. But I like them all together as a bookmark for this journal. And I just backed it onto some cereal box and added a tab and sewed around it. They're beautiful little pictures. I used a few of these in my windows to make embellishments, my window frames. There's another one of the window frames and some vellum. More vellum. Looks so nice, I think, on top of a white page. It's just a book page and another one of the envelopes. That one flips up and it does have a journal card that I put together with a book picture, some old coffee dyed paper material and one of the ephemera pieces. Onto cereal box again. That slips in there. There's a map piece. You can flip it open and write on it. So there's the window piece that has one of these in the window. I think that looks quite neat too in the frame. Just put that there for now. Other side of the book picture page, vellum. And then we've got some more of the packaging there that I made into a little pocket with my memo papers that I can use. And then the back, you saw me make that, and it's got the little tag in there. So they are the two journals that I made with the goodies that PandaHall sent me. I had so much fun with all of that stuff. Thank you so much to the people at PandaHall. The link to all the products that they sent me is down below, all the different links, as well as a link to their shop so you can go and have a look. There's also my coupon code, which is YXYTNAT. If you use that upon checkout, you can get 10% off of your order from PandaHall, and that's valid until August 2026, so you've got plenty of time. I hope you got some inspiration from these. Tried, as I said, to use a bit of each of the different things that I bought, just so you could see how you might want to use them in your project. Yeah, lots and lots of fun, and I do have stacks left over. I've got all my gel prints. I'll show you. Or I have heaps of the rings. Here's the one that we did last video. We did some collages with the gel prints and used some of the ephemera just as a recap. And I took the pages out of this one. They were the ones I ripped out that went into this. And then I had another one of these books because I had the two kits and the pages out of that one into this, but I still have stacks of them left over so I can make more. And then I've still got some vellum and papers, lots of my photo corners, the washi tape, all these embellishments, lots of the memo papers and note papers, and stacks of the stickers. So I'll be having a ball with all of that in those journals and maybe even making some more journals in the future. So check out all the links. Happy crafting. Thanks for being here and I'll see you again soon. Bye.